The biggest prisoner swap since the Cold War, a contemplation of the genre of Olympic anthems, plus Team Monocle goes to the Games. I'm Andrew Muller. The Monocle Daily starts now. Welcome to the Monocle Daily, live from Paris. It's day 5 of our weekday residency here on the 16th floor of the Sceaux Hotel in the centre of the French capital, taken over for the next couple of weeks by Maison Allianz, the worldwide insurance partner of the Olympic and Paralympic Games. My guests Thomas Chatterton-Williams and Pierre Siankowski will discuss the day's big stories and consider the largely justifiably forgotten oeuvre of Olympic anthems, plus the Monocle team will be here to gloat about how much of the games they have seen, to a presenter who has so far only caught Paraguay versus Mali in the men's football, which to be honest wasn't a classic. Plus we'll meet someone who has not only actually competed in the Olympic Games 3 times, but won a medal. That's all coming up on the Monocle Daily, live from Maison Allianz at the Sceaux Hotel. God, that was a long intro. Hello and welcome to the Daily live from Paris. And I am joined today by Thomas Chatterton-Williams, staff writer at The Atlantic, and by Pierre Siankowski, Deputy Editorial Director at Brut. Hello to you both.
Hello. Hi.
Thomas, it is only a matter of days since you were last here, so I feel like our listeners already know all about you. We even know that you can just about see your house from up here, but what have you been doing in the 48 or 72 hours or whatever it is since you last stood on that spot?
This morning I got to see finally some basketball, some Olympic basketball. I saw the men's and women's 3-on-3 tournament this morning. That was fantastic. Just rode the bike down from my apartment to Place de la Concorde, saw some good basketball, went home. I mean, the Olympics in the city are much more pleasant than I had anticipated.
Well, this does seem to be a thing that people are saying, and that Parisians had been absolutely dreading the whole thing for months, if not years, and it turns out that actually it's much less hassle than everyone expected, and indeed quite pleasant. This idea of bringing the games into the city really is working so far.
I was lied to. I was told that I had to leave the city. I planned my whole summer. I'm only here for a week, and I wish I would have actually plan to participate in it. It's amazing. The lines weren't even bad.
It is extraordinary so far, and I do hope to rectify not having seen much of it sometime this weekend. Pierre, you did not flee the city. Why was that? Was it just in the vague hope that a series of chance encounters might put you on the Monocle Daily?
Yeah, for sure. And I'm very happy to be here, Andrew, with you tonight.
But introduce yourself, if you would, to our listeners.
Oh yeah, so I'm my name is Pierre. I'm working for a digital media called Brut that was created like 7 years ago now. It's a media you can follow on Instagram, Snapchat, TikTok, Facebook, YouTube. There are some contents that you may like, Andrew. We were talking about, for the moment, we're talking about the Olympics, but it's a media which deals with the news and with culture. So it's a very interesting media for you. And before I was working for a press magazine, a newspaper called Les Inrecuptibles, which is one of the best cultural paper in the world. It was a weekly when I was there, and now it's monthly.
But it is still going. I mean, it's one of those few, I guess, what you would think of as an old school rock magazine, which has still managed to survive.
Yeah. It's a very interesting magazine because we created this magazine because we were big fans of the Smiths and of Morrissey. Now we're not. We cannot say that we are still fan of Morrissey, but we still like the Smiths, and it's a magazine that deals with all this pop culture and stuff.
Okay, well, we will start with non-Olympic, but nevertheless good news. The completion overnight of the biggest prisoner exchange between Russia and the West since the end of the Cold War. Among 16 people released from Russian captivity, the Wall Street Journal reporter Evan Gershkovich, the Russian-American journalist Alsu Kernasheva, and the Russian-British activist and repeat and hopefully future Monocle Radio guest Vladimir Kara-Murza. Travelling in the other direction, 8 Russians, including FSB hitman Vadim Krasikov, who was greeted personally off the plane in Moscow by Russian President Vladimir Putin, who at the time of Krasikov's conviction for murder in Germany in 2019 denied any knowledge of him. Thomas, first of all, this is Well, I mean, obviously it's going to be a thing in American politics because the optics for President Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris were tremendous. It's hard to gainsay those scenes from Andrews Air Force Base welcoming people back off the plane, having negotiated them home. Donald Trump had insisted for years that Gershkovich and others would be released within minutes of him being sworn in at absolutely no cost. But does this really shift anything, do you think, in the US election?
No, I don't think it shifts anything in the election, but I do think it's a moment where we have to give President Biden some flowers and really say that, a president with 40 years of international relations experience really matters. I mean, the orchestration of all of these countries involved to get not just Evan, who this really hits close to home because Evan and I share one of my best friends in common who was in contact with him the whole time, and I was really just amazed by the dignity under pressure that Evan was able to show us all. But I'm very happy that Evan is home. But what happened with being able to get Germany and Slovenia and all these other countries to make all of these great sacrifices to get not just Evan back and some Americans, but even to free some Russian dissidents. It was really an extraordinary moment for international cooperation, I think. For the German president to give up such a high profile, what happened in the Tear Garden was so extraordinarily shocking to Germans. To give that criminal back, Vadim, back to Putin, to do this on behalf of exchanges that didn't benefit his country directly. It's really amazing, and Biden was able to orchestrate that.
I mean, Pierre, the optics at the other end are pretty extraordinary and pretty telling as well. Obviously Biden and Kamala Harris get to greet off their plane and a couple of absurdly imprisoned journalists, among others whose justifications for their detention were rickety in the extreme, while Vladimir Putin kicks out the carpet for acknowledged Secret Service's hitman.
This I don't know, but it's for me it was very impressive because I'm not really know many things into the diplomatic stuff, but I was very impressed that there was 26 people. There was 7 countries involved, and I don't know how you can make such a deal. I'm a big fan of NBA. The NBA game, and it really reminds me the famous trades that happen in one night. When you have 3 players going to the Bulls, 1 to the Celtics, and 2 who are going to Oklahoma and Orlando Magic. So I was really impressed by the way they just had this diplomatic success.
I was reading the intricacies of the setup as well, and they are extraordinary, and I do commend our listeners to the reporting of the Wall Street Journal on this in particular. But I was thinking exactly that. It's hard enough to get 6 people together in one place for lunch.
Well, it is. I mean, and the idea that Donald Trump would have been able to do this in less than a day, as he promised, is just ludicrous. I think we really have to tip our hat, but it's not going to change the election. I'm afraid the forces that are divided in America on this election are pretty much unswayable by things like this.
Pierre, I think we also have to admire, it was something Thomas pointed out, just the extraordinary poise that Evan Gershkovich has demonstrated throughout this. And I think for any journalist who has reported from a difficult place overseas, like we all, I think, have a there but for the grace of about his story. This could happen to anybody who reports from abroad, especially from a country like Russia. But the story goes, and this is again from the Wall Street Journal's reporting, that he was obliged to go through the charade of filling out an application for clemency to President Putin. So he had to fill in this page of writing, which he finished by requesting an interview with the Russian president. What do you think is the likelihood of Putin agreeing to that?
I don't know, but I think he will always remember what happened to him, and I think he precisely know what he has written on this page, and he will be obsessed all his life with the words he put on that paper. It must be like a very freaky experience and a terrible experience, but I hope he's safe now and he's okay for starting a new life and following the Olympics that will be on TV for a week.
Important.
He is famously a very keen football fan. Just finally, before we move off this one, Thomas, there had been an assumption at large, I think, about Evan Gershkovich in particular, and certainly this was an idea that Donald Trump was keen to encourage, that one of the benefits, not that I honestly think many Trump voters care one way or the other about a Wall Street Journal reporter, but one of the benefits of electing Trump was that he would get Americans home. Does this perhaps suggest that maybe Putin doesn't actually think it was worth, or it's any longer having anything to bargain Donald Trump with? Is this possibly a sign that...
No, I think that Putin got what he really wanted out of this. He got a very favorable trade. You know, he got a massive exchange with Vadim Krasnikov. He got a massive exchange to his advantage with that, and you know, previously a year ago with Brittany Griner, the NBA player, the WNBA player, he got a very favorable exchange that way too. So I think that, you know, he didn't need to hold out to leverage Trump. And I think anybody who thinks that Donald Trump would get better deals has to wonder why he's on such good terms with Putin that he could just make it happen so easily.
Well, we move on now to Olympic matters, and an aspect of the Olympics which is perhaps not widely appreciated is that every game since Montreal in 1976 has had an official anthem. This aspect may be widely unappreciated, at least partly because the anthems in questions are, and we checked, bloody awful. This, for example, is the incumbent. It's Hello World, which for some reason is by Gwen Stefani and Anderson .Paak, both from California. Perhaps 4 years from now, the Los Angeles 2028 anthem will be commissioned from Vanessa Paradis. I do believe we have a sting of Hello World by Gwen Stefani.
Let me hear you say, let me hear you say, let me hear you say, everybody say, slide on the worldwide stage.
Yeah, it continues in broadly that fashion for some time. Pierre, as one of two semi-retired rock critics at this table, what is your professional opinion of that?
It's not the music I would listen to at home, but I think it's...
Tactfully put.
Yeah, it's going to be very, very efficient in the nightclub after 2 o'clock in the morning. But honestly, I don't think it's the worst Olympic song I've heard in my life. Knowing that I was coming here, I listened to many of them, and honestly, it's not the worst.
Go on then. What do you think's the worst?
There is this song for the Olympics of 1980 in Moscow, which is really terrible. You should listen to it, and you should look at the video, which is really, really freaky and creepy. There are two songs. It's a musician that I like a lot. It's Giorgio Moroder. I don't know why Giorgio decided to write two pieces for the Olympics in 1984 and 1988. He wrote this song for this guy called Paul Eggman in 1984 for the Los Angeles Olympics. It's very creepy. It looks like an old, slow, and really creepy slow. And in 1988, he wrote a song for that group called Koreana. For the Olympics in South Korea in Seoul, and it's also a very, very creepy one. I'm not sure today he will be very, very proud of what he did for the Olympics.
There is a recurring theme there, but Pierre, are your sensibilities, as I'm sure a patriotic Frenchman, not outraged by the fact that a French artist was not asked to write an anthem for France's games?
Honestly, it's better because we tried that when we hosted the World Cup in 1998, and we've chosen Johnny Hallyday to perform this song, and it was honestly a disaster. So I'm really okay with the fact that a non-French artist did it.
Do you have a view, Thomas, on the current Olympic anthem? We're going to play a couple of others shortly,
Sure.
but given that you are yourself American and we can therefore blame you sort of for this anthem, are you going to attempt to defend it?
No, I'm not a fan of this. I was not feeling it. There's no aspect of it that gets me amped up. I much prefer Kendrick Lamar's Not Like Us. If you need a summer banger, they could have used that.
They absolutely could have. Well, we have picked a couple of others, and to be honest, I picked two from the two cities that I know best. One is from London, who commissioned, I guess, what you might think of as the 21st century Pink Floyd Muse. And I don't really mean that as a compliment, but Muse came up with this. Prog nonsense there from Muse. Pierre, again, as the semi-retired rock critic, what did you make of that? And here is an opportunity for a French person to be dismissive of the English, which I know is something you enjoy.
I've never been a big fan of Muse, honestly. I had some problems with Muse because I wrote an article one day for one of their albums, and I said in the article that I would prefer to get it was the chicken flu at the time, to get the chicken flu that having to listen this album again. So they bought posters in the metro with my name and this
Really?
sentence, yeah, and they wrote on this poster, this guy from Les Arocs said that, but the audience has chosen, and they bought tickets for 2 Stade de France. So it was a way of telling that my critic was stupid, which and she was.
Annoyingly, that's actually quite witty of them. Did you get lots of angry correspondence from die-hard Muse fans?
Not that much. I think it was the most impressive one. But no, I've never been a big fan of Muse, and I always think that's the problem with the Olympics tunes and songs. There is this epic side that I really hate. It's really disturbing for me to, it's you think that you listen a song that have been designed for making war to a country. It's really I don't really like that.
Thomas, did you have any fixed views on the Muse anthem for London?
It's hard for me to understand, and I kind of want to put the question back to Pierre. What is it? What are the components of a great Olympic anthem? Actually, I don't know what the judgment criteria would be.
I think for me it have to sound like a performance, that's something that. For example, I was really young, but I really liked at the time the song of Whitney Houston, "One Moment in Time." It was I learned this afternoon, taking some information about her, that it had been written by Albert Hammond, which is actually the father of Albert Hammond Jr. of the Strokes. I didn't know that, and honestly, it was really. I don't know. When I was listening to this song, I really wanted to win a gold medal, which I did not do. But it was really, and it was really matching very well with images of sports. It was really hectic.
I mean, I think for an Olympic anthem, obviously you need a big rousing chorus. I think you need some sort of appeal to a universality of the human spirit, and this was what my own country folk came up with 24 years ago. We did at least get one of our own people to do it, specifically Tina Arena. This is The Flame.
Reaching out to greatness, all we can be. We will show who we are.
I mean, you do kind of fear for the glassware when she hits that top note there, but again, Pierre, semi-retired rock critic, what is your professional opinion of that one? And I won't take it personally if you say you don't.
It's really changed where it's really strange where there are children involved in that kind of thing. Why the children?
I think that's where they like that appeal to, I guess, the idea of something uncorrupted, something innocent, and the whole children are our future thing.
I don't know, but I think they will remember this experience all their life, and I think the song is playing in their head. Every morning.
Very, very likely. I mean, Thomas, they at least called it The Flame. There's some obvious.
They were on topic.
Exactly.
Yeah. I saw the flame, not to get on a tangent, but I saw the actual torch this morning in the Tuileries. That was impressive, actually. To get back to this idea that I was gaslit and undersold what the Olympics would actually be in Paris, it's been an extraordinary experience. The flame that is floating around Paris every night and parked in the Tuileries during the daytime is fantastic. Much better than the anthem.
Is this you being tactful about Tina Arena and just hoping
Trying
to
to
get a pass on making a judgment?
No anti-Australian hate from me.
Really?
No.
Not even a bit?
No, I like the Aussies.
Well,
But she was named Arena, which is very good for sports.
again.
Nomen et
Yeah.
omen. Yeah.
Exactly. Finally, then, before we let you both go, we do still have about a week and a bit of the Olympics to run. Pierre, I will ask you first. Do you have firm plans to see anything or to attempt to see anything?
I went to see the semi-finals of basketball. I'm very, very happy. I hope France will still be there, and I really hope to see the American team or even the Canadian one, which is very good. And I would really like to see Jokic because he's one of my favorite players. So fingers crossed.
And Thomas?
Unfortunately, I have to go to the south of France this weekend, so I don't think
how
I'll see any
dreadful.
more. I don't think I'll see any more events, but I would love to see the American basketball team or fencing. I'm a convert to the great sport of fencing. I met one of the American Team USA players was in Soho House the other day, and I said hello. I want to put my son in the fencing academy now.
And also the fencing does have an absolutely spectacular venue at these games.
It's incredible. The
Yeah.
Grand Palais, it's incredible.
Yeah, I even despite the prices on the resale site, I am agonizingly tempted. For the moment, though, Thomas Chatterton Williams and Pierre Siankowski, thank you both for joining us on the Daily in Paris. You are listening to the Monocle Daily live from Paris. Now, regular listeners to the Daily, like we have any other kind, etc., will be aware that the Friday show is usually an all-staff in-house sort of deal. We are now going to have a lash at capturing here at our pop-up studio in Paris an amount of that sullen, phoned-in resentment of people who've had a long enough week as it is that we know you, the Friday Daily listener, have come to anticipate. So, all being well on the tech front, we are joined now from the Stade de France by Carlotta Rebello, Monocle's senior foreign correspondent, who is literally at the games right now. And here with me in our studio managers, Steph Chungu and David Stevens, who have also been supping from this consommé of sport. Can we go first to Carlotta at the start? Carlotta, can you hear us?
Me, Andrew.
What can you see or hear right now where you are?
Exclusive for you. We're just record by Team US 100 meters mixed relay. Fantastic win by Team USA next round, and it's incredible. Not only engulfed and excited, it's the first time I've ever witnessed a world record. So things are good.
This probably seemed like a good idea at the time. I think maybe everybody is trying to use whatever Wi-Fi and whatever phone coverage is available in the Stade de France. We might have another crack at trying to get Carlotta back very shortly. I'm more confident about David and Steph because they're standing right here. David, what have you actually been going to see? Stop.
Yeah, sorry. Do you know what? We went along to the BMX yesterday. Well, the general area. They've got basketball there. They've got skateboarding there. Breaking. Sure, I'm sure you're a big fan of. We didn't actually see any events per se.
I'm actually quite intrigued and excited by the breaking because that is a new sport. This year.
Yes. And you know what? It is exciting. And I think anyone who's judging it needs only to look at some of the gymnastics disciplines and see how different they really are to maybe eat their own words. But no, we went along there. I mean, to be honest, that was more for the spectacle of the setting, seeing what they'd been able to build in the middle of a intersection, essentially.
But can you give us some sense of what it looks like? Because you do, of course, often work on our program, The Urbanist. You should be able to put this into an amount of perspective. And we've been talking all week about what an extraordinary job Paris has done of turning the city into an Olympic venue.
Yeah, speaking of, we talked on the show, The Urbanist, about a kind of pop-up hill that occurred in London that was wholly underwhelming. This is like 4 pop-up hills that are very overwhelming. It's kind of 4 gathered around the cenotaph. I don't know what you'd call it. The big thing in the middle of
The big
Place de la
thing in the
Concorde.
middle is the technical name for it.
There are 4 arenas, essentially BMX, the basketball, and then 2 versions of the skateboarding arenas. I think the breaking is on one of those or somewhere else. But they sort of rise up out of the ground in the beautiful purples and blues of this year's this edition of the Olympics, and it's quite grand. You kind of walk into the middle of it, and you're surrounded by these arenas. It's kind of come out of nowhere, and it's it's quite the spectacle.
And Steph, to the seething envy of the rest of Team Monocle, though we did have a very good lunch today, which you missed out on, you actually have been to the athletics at Stade de France. First of all, I'll ask you presently about what that was actually like atmosphere-wise, but what did you actually get to see?
I saw a lot of things. I saw a lot of things. It was quite overwhelming, but it was also very easy to follow because all the events was taking place on the same stage. I just want to go back to what Carlotta just witnessed. I think she witnessed the world record coming from the US in the 4x400 relay mixed round 1. That was the results about 10 minutes ago. But I went to the morning session, which had the preliminary, I can't say that word, preliminary, round.
That was an exemplary pronunciation of preliminary.
Thank you so much. The preliminary women's 100 meter rounds, and then of course the official round 1 of the 100 meters for women, the 1500 meter men's, the long jump men's, the shot put men's, the high jump women's, the hammer throw men's. It was a lot, but it was really calm walking, getting to Stade de France. For some reason, I thought it was going to take me half an hour to get there from the accommodation that we're at while I'm here. It took about 45, which was quite pleasant. I thought I'd just, start at 9 a.m. thinking I've missed the peak rush of spectators rushing to the stadium, to find that at 9:30 at Gare du Nord, it was still heaving of people. And so many people just calmly just didn't want to say, get out of my way, you're in my way, like the typical British manners on the London Underground. But it was a really nice walk, getting to Stade de France, about 15 minutes from Saint-Denis station. And when you just enter the stadium and you see the decorated pitch, I'm sorry, I can't describe it, the purple track, the decorated the decorations of the stadium, honestly, I found it beautiful. I found it so stunning, and how picturesque it was, and I can't lie, being the millennial myself, it took amazing pictures. But the vibe was just exceptional. The crowd was just exceptional.
From the point of view of a spectator going to the sport, I think most people, obviously, who watch an Olympic Games will be watching it on television, and from which you get any number of close-ups and different angles and so on. And I'm sure there are big screens at the stadium. But in terms of seeing what's happening while it's happening, do you get a sense of what's going on in the high jump or the hammer throw?
I won't lie, as a athletics fan, I'm more of the track person. So I know how the track side work. I know how the 100 meters work and 1500 meters. That's easy. With the hammer throw and the long jump and the high jump, you kind of have to go by what the crowd is judging based, and it's quite hard because multiple events are happening at the same time, so you don't want to distract yourself. You want to see the long jump, but this person's doing the high jump right now, and they're trying to engage people to do the the clap before the person does their thing, and then you sat there going to the person next to you going, what are we cheering for? And they're just like, and you're like, okay, we're cheering for everyone. But no, it was quite easy to follow if you have the right people with you. So I was sat next, I went on my own. I sat next to this lovely Spanish couple who goes to the Olympics like every single time. It's kind of like their thing, which I kind of...
They're quite sweet. There is a whole subculture of just massive Olympics nerds.
I found it so cute. And then they were talking about how they went to watch the Scottish man's last match, the Scottish man being Andy Murray. And I was sat next to a French person who was only there for Sha'Carri Richardson. I mean, fair enough. And we were all basically just a group of people just pointing out where the attention was on the cameras on the screen. So if someone was there like, high jump, our bodies all turn to the high jump, or long jump, we all turn to the other side. And then obviously like with the 100 meters, we all have to like peer across the stadium to see the 100 meters, but it was a really fun day.
But David, what Steph's saying there, I think, is even for someone like me who hasn't got to see much of the games, it is hard to notice that there is a definite vibe about Paris this week, and it's almost disappointing because when I think you go to any city, you want a taste of what its stereotype is, and I think at least once in your life, and I have had this experience, you do want a Parisian waiter just to sort of wander off halfway through taking your order. That has very much not been the case right now, unless we've just been exceptionally lucky. Paris seems to be in quite a good mood.
Yeah, do you think they're putting on airs for us now that we're visiting? Has this become the Disneyland that no one's going to?
They never have before. Why would they start now?
No, it's been really pleasant, really lovely. We've eaten well. I haven't really been in a crush at all with the transport, other than coming back from the football, which you would expect anyway. But otherwise, it's been very pleasant on all the transport. It's a lovely city to walk in. The buses are all operating. Occasionally, there's a track that goes through your road. Maybe there's road cycling coming out. The marathon next weekend, I'm sure, will shut down some of the roads, but you can still get through, and it doesn't feel like you've kind of been put out by it. I know I haven't had the way to walk off either. Maybe they're being extra nice.
Well, just finally from each of you, I'll ask you first, Steph, if you have one particular memory of week one at the Olympics that you're especially fond of.
Oh. You might be displeased by this one, but I actually did like the football match between Mali and Paraguay. It was just a really nice group event watching together. We were...
I was sitting literally right next to you.
I know.
And somehow she still enjoyed it.
Quite surprising as well, because I never expected so much football fun from you. I honestly didn't. So watching the football match with you was an experience I will definitely tell my future children one day. But yeah, the football match was really something. It was my first time at Parc des Princes, which is the PSG stadium. I had no idea until when everyone started leaving after the abysmal defeat of Mali that it was the PSG stadium. So of course it was just me decided to play team tourist and send loads of pictures to my mum saying, "Mum, look, I'm at the PSG stadium." But that was a good memory.
David, what's been your favourite bit of week one?
For me, it was actually whilst sitting up here in our Maison Allianz.
I mean, it's not bad.
It's not bad. The view was good, but also during our daily radio meeting, which we were joining from the phone, I also had my computer and I was watching 4 finals in a row in the rowing that New Zealand had managed to make it to. And
is this how much attention you usually pay in team meetings?
Yeah, somehow even more so. And they managed to get 3 medals out of the 4 races, a gold being one of them, a silver and a bronze. So that was really great. And I got to message my mum, even though I wasn't at the rowing, I'm in Paris, and she was very excited that we'd won the medals, but also that I kind of was a little bit of a part of it.
Did everybody else at the meeting not get confused as to why you were periodically leaping from your seat and shrieking?
Do you know what was great? Actually, when we won the gold, it was Team GB just behind that with Tom sitting next to me. And down the line, our producer Laura Kramer, who has some Romanian claim, who got the bronze. So that was quite exciting for the 3 of us to medal in the same race.
And if there is one thing, David, on which our respectively generally disputatious peoples can agree on, knocking over the Poms is always fun, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Every time.
Wow.
David Stevens, Carlotta Rebello, all too briefly, and Steph Chungu, thank you all for joining us. And finally on today's show, if it is a wild dream of many to compete in an Olympics, it is the wild dream of those who do compete to perch upon that podium. Our next guest knows what that is like. Bruno Fratus has represented Brazil in the pool in the 50-metre freestyle at 3 Olympic Games. He missed the medals by 0.02 of a second in London and was further adrift in Rio de Janeiro, but won bronze in Tokyo. I spoke to Bruno here at our pop-up studio in Paris earlier, and I asked him how difficult or otherwise it is attending the Olympics not as an athlete, but as a spectator.
I don't think you're ever non-Olympian. Once you become an Olympian, you're an Olympian forever. Thank you. It is heartbreaking, that's for sure. I really wish I was racing, but only because I had no idea how much fun you could have as a sports fan in the Olympics. And obviously, I'm lucky enough. I'm having the privilege of working with the broadcasting efforts and the OBS, of course, and also Global TV from Brazil. So I'm doing a lot of work. I'm sleeping probably 4 hours a night and eating when I can. usually on the way. So it's keeping me really, really busy, which is much, much better than the option of being just curled up in my bed, refusing to watch TV at home.
Is that what you think you would be doing otherwise?
I truly believe so, because being here has really helped me cope with obviously the frustration of not being able to race. As I said, obviously I wanted to be here racing and getting out of the medal because that's just who I am. That's just, I'm a competitor, I'm a sprinter, I'm a racer. So what a racer do? Races. Not being able to race is kind of like, it's almost like counterintuitive, but just being able to shut off the predator in me, and just be happy to be here and enjoy. It's been a hell of an experience.
I'm guessing it's quite a different experience from life at an Olympics in the Olympic Village.
It is. The Olympic Village, obviously, it's great and it's a hell of an experience. But right now, in this point of my life, I much rather air conditioning and a proper bed.
This has come up at the last few games, the thing about the cardboard beds. How cardboard actually are they?
They're good material for jokes, but despite that, it's really good bed. I was surprisingly enjoying it back in Tokyo, that I thought I was going to have problems with the mattress, especially because it's also this special type of recycled mattress. But I had great nights of sleep, also because I carried my own pillow and my own... You ever heard about those anxiety blankets?
I have not.
It's a blanket that is really soft, and it weighs around something between 7 to 10 kilos. So when you sleep with that over you, really feels like a hug. Feels like the weight weights down on you, and it really helps you cope with anxiety and sleep deeper. So I brought one of those. I brought 2 pillows of mine from back home. So I was having great nights in Tokyo on the cardboard beds.
A thing you may be able to help us with is a common psychological proposition that does the rounds about Olympic medalists, that on any Olympic podium, the bronze medalist, as you were, is actually the happiest competitor, because the gold medalist is possibly somebody who's sort of expected to win it, and so they're just standing there relieved that they didn't screw it up. The silver medalist is, of course, absolutely seething that they're not the gold medalist, while the bronze medalist, so this thinking goes, is thinking, wow, I'm an Olympic medalist.
I made it to the podium, right?
Is that what it's actually like?
It truly is. It truly is. When you have that feeling that you finally made through the podium, because especially in my case, coming from 2 upsets, 2 disappointments in the Olympics, and one of them being, well, every Olympic I went to, I was placing at least 10th in the world ranking. In Rio, actually, it was the first time in the world ranking. So walking out of my home country games, my home city games without a medal was pretty traumatic, depending on the optics you have over it. But being able to finally get a medal meant a lot, and I was just so glad. I was just so happy. And there you were seeing just my spirit, and I was in that moment for sure, not even trying to put a poker face or trying to be the competitor, trying to be an Olympian. At that moment with the bronze medal, I was just being Bruno, and that's it.
When you do have those disappointments, and those disappointments for you in terms of the time, the difference between the result you wanted and the result you got, they're nothing. They're hundredths of a second. What lesson can you possibly take away from something like that? How can you think, well, next time I'll be 300ths of a second faster?
You don't really have control over it. The only thing you can hope for and prepare for, it's to become a better racer. So if you become a better racer, that is gonna reflect on the tenths, hundreds of seconds that are gonna be shaved off your race. And swimming is a very specific sport because you cannot possibly control your adversary's game, right? So you can only be faster yourself. And also swimming is a game of mistakes. The less mistakes you've made during the race, there's no such thing as making 0 mistakes in a race. I mean, I don't believe that ever happens. But the less mistakes you make, the better you swim, the better you place, the faster your time is gonna be. So it's about really being able to execute your game plan and your athletic gesture, as we call it, in my case, the 50 freestyle, and being able to be cold-minded at all and do what you're supposed to do.
Genuinely though, what counts as a mistake in a 50 meters freestyle? Like, you can see a mistake in a football game, a pass gets kicked out of bounds, a shot doesn't hit the target. You could see a mistake, well, exactly that mistake in archery, for example. Somebody misses the thing they were aiming at. But in a 50 meter sprint across a pool, what can actually go wrong?
anything that causes more drag or reduces your efficiency in the race. So we go through various analysis, biomechanical analysis, and time analysis, of course. When you watch the video, you can see certain movements or certain patterns that are improving your drag in the water. So you try to minimize those, especially the dive in. Sometimes you have a foot that is a little tweaked to the bottom. Sometimes you have a lower back that's a little more bent. So you try to be as smooth as possible cutting the water. And there's no such thing as gaining speed in the water. The fastest point in every swim race is right before when you touch the water. As soon as you touch the water, you start losing speed. And the way you lose less speed is make sure you streamline, as we call it, like your contact with the water, your hydrodynamics are top notch.
At Monocle Radio, we talk about Olympics a lot, and we talk about international sporting events a lot in terms of, countries representing themselves on the world stage and countries projecting an image of themselves. When you are that athlete, when you are swimming for your country, do you have room in your head for that, or are you just thinking, I'm just going to concentrate on swimming as fast as I can? If it means the Brazilian flag gets flown and the anthem gets played, then fine, but it's not really the point.
Every athlete's really different. I think you have to use anything that puts you out there. You have to find your purpose, see what motivates you. I know what motivates me, and I have friends that they don't see any sense in what I believe, and vice versa. But you have to find what puts you out there, what fires you up, and in all means use it.
Well, just finally then, you've talked a bit about mixed feelings, I guess, about being at the Olympics and not competing at the Olympics. Are you thinking ahead to 2028 yet?
I am not, honestly. I think if I start thinking too ahead and starting to worry about it, I'm not going to be fair to myself, and I'm not going to get the most of the experience I'm having right now in Paris. I just want to be present here and enjoy these games to the best of my ability. And I think I'm going to think about it. I don't know. There's still 4 years, right? I'm not in a rush.
That was Bruno Fratus, Olympic bronze medalist of Brazil last time out. And that is all for this edition of the Monocle Daily. Thanks to our panellists today, Thomas Chatterton-Williams and Pierre Siankowski, and also to Steph Chungu, Carlotta Rebello and David Stevens. Today's show was produced here in Paris by Tom Webb, and our sound engineer was Lily Austin, and in London, Flynn Simons. I'm Andrew Muller here in Paris. The Daily is back at the same time on Monday, live from Maison Allianz at the So Hotel. Goodbye, and thanks for listening.